Welcome to our the Stitch Life. Life design is what we're gonna go through today. Sorry, we're gonna go through draping, and we're gonna do the principles of draping. So, welcome back, guys. Make sure you guys check out the Black and Fashion podcast as well. You'll find a lot of interesting information there with different designers, fashion industry professionals as well. So, today our focus is draping. So, there are a couple foundational principles that you need to know about draping. Draping is a version of pattern making. It is our version of seeing things in a three-dimensional format opposed to seeing it in 2D and doing it flat pattern. A lot of times we'll see a lot more draping with things that have volume and or manipulation. So with the pleating and puffs and harem pants, like anything that has like a whole lot of volume in it. So basically what you do is you outline what the design is going to look like onto your dress form, and then you start to create it. And of course, you always want to start with a sketch. So look at your sketch and know exactly what it is you're making. So a couple things. When you're draping a knit versus draping a woven, you have to do a couple different things. So our first thing is making sure that you understand the proportion of the dress form. This is our princess line. This is our center front line. This is our bust line, our waistline, side seam, armhole, shoulder, neckline seam, and then of course this is our hip. Now, today we're going to drape a corset. So that way you can see how the components go. Now, with corsetry, there's a lot of different ways to go about it, just depending on the design. Particular design that we are going to do today is actually going to be a pleated suede. So we're going to use muslin in order to make the pattern to start. And the reason why we're going to use muslin is because the suede doesn't have a lot of stretch to it and is of a lightweight. So anytime you drape, you should be draping with a fabric that's similar to your actual fabric. But you don't actually want to drape with your actual fabric because then it would actually be a waste of time and a waste of your fabric, hard on fabric money. Okay. Now, in order to prepare your fabric for draping, you have to block it. And what that means is what we're going to do is we're going to cut the selvage edge on each side, and then we're going to open up the grain to make sure that the fabric is actually proportioned. Let me move this back just a tad bit. Make sure you got a good view here. Now, what I'm going to do is very easy. I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to slip the edge, snip it here, and I'm going to pull this out. And this only goes for wovens. You're not going to do this with knit fabric. So if a design calls for a woven fabric, meaning a fabric that has less stretch, you're just going to do this method. So I'm going to do that to each side so I can open up the grain. And this is called blocking. Okay. Got this side, and I'm going to do this side. Whoops, that one didn't go. So let me go here. Alrighty, and then actually I'm gonna do this whole side over here too. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper, make sure I have a perfect square. And of course, sometimes it doesn't always go through, so you'll have to cut it again until you actually get it to be completely ripped. That's perfect, okay? So when I go to fold this in half, I'm going to have two pieces, okay? And I want two pieces because I need one piece for the front of my design and I need one piece for the back of my design. So I'm actually going to cut this piece completely in half. All right. Now this is going to be my front piece. And before I start draping, I'm going to block. So I'm going to hold the fabric at a diagonal angle and I'm going to open the grain up like so until I get it to be completely symmetrical. I'm going to just pull it at a 90-degree angle like this to make sure. And the way you check this is by folding it in half and making sure it hits every corner. Okay. So if you fold it in half, looks like this, looks pretty good. Now you see how this corner over here looks slightly uneven, even though I have it in half. Let me make sure how even this is. Yep, it's a little uneven. So I'm going to just do it one more time, just in this corner, just to make sure that it's completely straight. Oh. All right. Of course, get rid of any excess fabric or anything like that. So I'm just going to pull a little bit more in this corner. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my form. I really just need to cover this area. So in actuality, I actually could cut this down a little bit more just because I don't want to have too much fabric when I'm draping because it just really does get in the way. So I'm actually going to go half one more time on this like that, like so. Okay, now, perfect. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw in my center front line. Yeah, I'm going to draw in my center front line. So it should be about 2 to 3 inches from the edge, not even 2 to 3. I'm going to actually take that back. I'm going to say 1. Let's go 1 inch from the edge to actually draw your line. So that's going to go here, right in front. And it could be on either side on the woven, whichever makes the most sense for the design. So I'm just going 1 inch in from the selvage edge down my muslin. Boom. Hope you can see that. Clear as day, 1 inch in from the selvage. So now that my fabric is completely set up, I'm gonna go ahead and set up my dress form. So the corset is it's kind of straight across the top. And then it's a little bit like pleated throughout. So my first line is I'm gonna mark the top of my corset line, which is going to be where my neckline starts. So I'm gonna go here. All right, so here you'll see, I'm gonna go right underneath the armhole because I don't want it to be too like uncomfortable, especially considering that it's suede. We still want it to be functional. So I'm gonna go here. That's gonna come straight across here, like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna put where it stops. It's not a long corset. It really does stop at like the true waistline. So I'm gonna put it there. I'm gonna mark exactly where the waistline is. I'm gonna come slightly down just a tad bit. So it's like right below the waist. So it sits literally right here. The whole point of a corset is to be able to suck you in. So that's what we're gonna do. And just make sure all your lines are completely straight. Okay. All right. So I got my starting point and my stop point. Looks a little crooked, so I'm just gonna fix it. Make sure it's symmetrical. Okay. Perfect. Now, what you wanna, let me make sure I go backwards just a couple steps. Make sure you have a lot of pins because you'll need those a lot when you're draping. And make sure you have a pair of scissors because you'll probably have to slash and spread as well. Okay. So for here, I'm gonna start where my line is, and let me do one more point. It's good to have a style line, and this is called style tape, down the center front of the garment too. So I'm just gonna add that so that it's easier to see. So this is gonna be my center front line. Right there. Then I'm gonna cut off this excess. All right. You got to use spandex, not that. Yeah, it's athleisure. Did you look at the fabrics that was on there? I did. Here's where I'm going to start. Boom. And I'm going to anchor a pin right here. Perfect. And then I'm going to come down. So I anchored one in between the bust point just to keep it like sturdy here. And I'm going to come down. And I'm going to put another one right here. There we go. And I'm going to go across here. And I'm going to anchor another one at my side seam. And then I'm going to anchor another one at the bottom of the side seam. Okay. And we're going to take a quick break for our commercial so you can hear from T-Mobile. And when we come back, I'll go into how we're going to manipulate this section to be a corset.
What is it?
This girl I just matched with, she likes The Office. I also like The Office.
Go to her.
She likes The Office.
I'd known Monica for a whole 6 seconds. She was gonna switch to me.
I object.
Oh, did I mention she was getting married?
I'm Tanner. I like watching The Office and going on adventures. 6 foot. Gym rat. I want to find the Pam to my gym. And you're unlike any man I've ever met in my life.
You are unlike any woman I have ever met.
Switching has never been easier. Switch to T-Mobile and save up to $650 per line.
You're definitely not 6 feet.
T-Mobile is the leader in 5G.
And we're back. Okay, so now that we're here inside, I want to give you guys just an image of what our corset will kind of look like. Alrighty, so this is our sketch. I'm actually going to do just 2 things here. So because there is a slight dip in this area, I am going to move my tape down just a tad bit so it makes like that functional curve. And then at the bottom, I'm going to make a slight angle a little bit more. So let me just do that first. And we'll start from there. So just a slight dip. So if I do a slight dip, it's going to come a little bit to a point. So more so like this. Okay. And then down here, same thing. It's going to come to more of a V shape. So I'll bring this to a slight point here. I'm going to bring this to a slight point. All right. Dress this. And then that. All right. So that looks a little bit more like our picture now. And then there is a line here for boning, and then there is going to be a style line here for boning. So we actually need to go back and add quite a few lines and then start draping. So I'm going to add a curve line. Oops, get my tape together. Can't find the end. There we go. Add a couple more lines to it before we start. So one coming from here. And then it's going to curve a tad bit like this. And I'm only going to tape up one side with the lines because I want it to be completely symmetrical on both sides. So I'm not doing both sides. I'm only doing one. And then it'll be cut 2 on both sides. So here's my first one. Got my center. Here's my side one. And I'm going to have one coming directly on top of the bust, which is going to be more like here. Okay. All right. So center front line, side front, another side front. And then I'm going to do one more coming from this side as well. Like this. Okay. So that means this course is going to be very structured. Okay. And then I'm just going to actually mark one more from my side seam. So that way we have one here. Okay, so now we can drape. And I'm actually going to start on this side because this is the side that I marked up. Okay. Alrighty. So still starting with the center front line, I'm going to anchor a pin here. And I'm going a little bit above the line because I need to cut into this area in order to slash and spread it. So here, I'm going to drop a pin there. Then I'm going to come down. I'm going to put another pin here so that I'm directly at my center front line. Okay. Then I'm going to go over to my side seam and I'm going to put another pin at the top as well as at the bottom. Alrighty. Got it. She's in there. Now, because I'm making the corset, I'm going to start cutting into it so I can start shaping it, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the top portion to shape it around. So I'm going to slash to the line, my top edge line, but not through that line. So slash to, but not through. Okay? And then as I'm doing that, my fabric is loosening up so that I can mold it around a little bit better. So that means now this pin comes out and I'm going to smooth it down so that it's laying flat. Okay? Second thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to create a dart here. Well, a seam line here because I have my side seam here. So with creating that, I'm creating kind of what you could call a fold here. And then I'm going to end up cutting through this line. So that first fold and my second fold would be here. So I'm going to go like this. I'm just going to fold it over for now as I'm draping. Like that. And then I'm going to fold this line over as well. Now, ultimately, when I lay this down on my pattern paper, I'm going to actually cut this out and create an actual seam line there. But for draping purposes, I needed to lay down flat so that I can establish my seam lines. And I'm going to add some more pins up here because this is now starting to shift and move slightly. And we don't want it to move at all. Okay. So pin across the top. And then I'm also going to fold this in even more as I come up across the bust. Ooh, that's not a good pin. So. Ready? And there's no such thing as over pinning. Whatever you got to do to make sure it's laying flat is absolutely fine. Make sure I get that, like so. Now, I have extra fabric sitting right here and it's in my way. So I'm gonna cut it apart, cut it away. And I'm just ripping like I did before so that I can just work with what I have here. Now, along this seam line here, I need to actually remove the fullness here. So now I'm gonna do a fold here. So it molds around. And use another pin there. All right. And I'm pretty much almost done except for the marking up. So we're going to go to another commercial break so you can check out FedEx, and then we'll be back with how to actually mark up your drape.
There's a couple things I'd like to say to you. After all the crazy things that we've been through, I needed you in the dead of night, the wake of the day, first broken light, and blind I'd fall, I'd follow you. I never realized how much I needed you.
Comfort. What we deliver by delivering.
Welcome back. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in just a tad bit here so you can see what I'm doing. So I have flattened out all of my seams. This fold could use maybe 1 or 2 more pins just to make sure it's completely flat. Here. And I'm going to put this here, like so, just to make sure it's flat. My center front looks like it's shifted a tad bit, so I'm going to go back and just repin there, make sure that it's also flat and that it's also symmetrical. So always check your lines, and that's why I drew a line in to make sure that it's laying flat here. Okay, let's go there. Okay. Perfect. All right. So you could use a pen or you could use a marker. It really doesn't matter. But what matters is that I capture every single seam line that is here. Okay. And then I'll use those to add my seam allowance, and then I'll cut this up. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go across my top boob. So I'm just going to make little dash lines across the top here to get that curve shape here. And I'm going to go all the way around until I get to my side seam. Okay, so that's my top line. I already have a straight line from my center front line, so I don't have to do anything there. Now here, I'm going to do dash lines as well, all the way down my side seam. There's a braid here on most dress forms. Typically, it's best to mark behind the braid. So I'm going to go all the way down here to the bottom of the piece where I made that end point. Any place where there's like a 90-degree angle or a cross point, you're going to want to cross mark that. So I'm going to cross mark here. I'm also going to cross mark here. And then I'm going to cross mark down here at the bottom. Okay. And now I'm going to go across my bottom as well. All right. So now I have the outline of the garment. So all the way around here. Next thing I'm going to do is actually go in and develop my style lines. So this is style line number 1. It comes directly from the side seam and is slightly curved like so. Okay. Okay. Style line number 1. Style line number 2 is coming from the princess seam, slightly on the curve. So here, style line number 2. All right, and then this is style line number 3, coming directly from the top of the bust point. Let me just back up a little bit. I'm scrolling down here. Okay, so now I have developed all of my style lines for my corset. Now, guys, you've noticed from here that the corset has a slight pleat to it. That's going to happen naturally throughout the fabric or whatever. So all we have to do is worry about all of the style lines, okay? Now that I have all of my style lines, I am going to make them a little bit darker, and I'm going to cut away any fabric I don't need. So I no longer need this slashing and spreading. So I can go ahead and cut this away at the bottom. Yeah, get rid of anything you don't need. It'll just make it easier for you later. And then I'm just going to check that everything is actually fitting the way I want it to. And then all of the folds that I have, I'm going to go ahead and fold those and put a pin in them so that when I take my drape off of the form, those don't move. So my pins are going to go through the fabric like so. So in and out. In and out. Okay. And then I'm actually going to put this back to where it was, just because I want to check my fit before I take it all the way off. Perfect. All right, and I have some extra here. Cut that off. So that's fold number 1 now. It's perfect. Now I'm going back to fold number 2. And I'm going to put this through the fabric so that when I remove it, it doesn't move. And what the folds do is they create shape. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm creating shape around the boobs. I'm creating a curve where boning will go completely from here to here. So all of the folds are creating and manipulating the fabric to form the shapes. And then when I take this off, I cut into them, I put them on paper, and I perfect those curves so that they round really nicely and that they actually mold to the body. So when you're draping for a certain body type, it's probably very important that you make sure you're using the dress form that's close into the size of the body type that you're making it for. So of course, I'm making a size 8 here for a particular client. Now, if it was for a 12, then of course you would use a 12 dress form. And if their body type was different, you could also use like padding and different stuff like that to make the hips wider or make the breasts bigger, make the shoulders up. So there are tools that you can purchase. Some on Amazon. On our Amazon list called the Perfect Fit. You can it's pieces to help you manipulate the dress form to the body type that you actually need it to be. Okay. So let's keep moving through our folds. Okay. And then I'm going back still and making sure that it's laying. That's what I care about. I care about the fit to make sure that it lays properly. Okay. All right. Definitely going to have to do a part 2 of this so that we can go to the next steps too, because draping does take some time to go through all of it. But I wanted you to understand the basic components like the blocking, the marking, the style tape, like all of that basic foundations and stuff. And then throughout the weeks, we'll do different garments, do dresses, do tops and stuff like that to make sure you're grabbing and grasping it. And of course, send your request in as well. We love to hear your feedback. Okay. All right. So now I've officially got all the folds in, except for one up here. And I have to remove my center front here in order to get to this fold because it's a little bit deeper. It's like literally right underneath the bust point. So that's where I'm lifting here and I'm sticking the pin in there. See? But now I'm going to go back and make sure everything's still laying flat and make sure all my folds have been actually captured. Okay? Looks good. Let's go back in here. Alrighty. And let's go here. And now I am officially done. So now this will be labeled as my CF, which is my center front. This little seam line, this little small area between here is going to be my side front. And then this is going to be my side. Now there's different ways of labeling it. It's up to you. And each one of these panels is going to be cut to. Side front is going to be cut to, and then side is going to be cut to. And then we have the little gusset, which is bottom side. I'm going to put that in here too. That's also going to be cut too. But our center front is going to be cut on fold because there isn't actually a seam here. So those are our proper labels. Center front, cut on fold. Side front, cut 2. Side, cut 2. Bottom side, cut another 2. And then we also, of course, do the exact same thing in the back of the garment as well. The back of the garment only has one style line, so it would only be 2 seams, a center back seam, which would be cut 2, and then a side seam, side back seam, and then that's it. So hope you guys have enjoyed this little tutorial on draping. Definitely check out the Black in Fashion podcast. And also don't forget our weekly pattern making and sewing classes are back. Pattern making and draping are back. Tuesdays we focus on draping. Thursdays we focus on flat pattern making. All classes are $100 and they are running from May until June. So peace out, everyone. We'll see you next week on The Stitch Life.